2018 to Salon Symphony. Thank you so much for coming. This is our 7th annual celebration of international women artists based in New York City, celebrating women artists from history, the here and now, and everywhere around the world. What I normally like to do as well is reference historical feminists as well to remember the context that we're all working in. But I realised that Mary Wollstonecraft is quite boring, so I came dressed as her instead. In a costume which is possibly as old as she is, so it doesn't quite fit, so I apologise for that. So this is, as I say, the 7th time we've all been gathered together to celebrate women artists from around the world. Today we have some 25 different nations represented, both in terms of performers on this stage this evening and also in our vernissage exhibition upstairs. So we hope you'll take some time to look at that later on. And we also have a participatory art project, which is a map of the world, and you can pin your own woman artist of choice on there, and that will be an ongoing project for the next month that we have the exhibition here at Dixon Place, and then we'll make a digital art project about that. Ooh, very futuristic. So one of our great partners for this evening, and you can see all of the event partners that we've gathered together with the International Women Artists Salon here on your programmes, or in your programmes, and one of them is a group that's been partnering with us since we began, and that is the the League of Professional Theatre Women and their International Committee. And they're going to talk a little bit about what their campaign is this year. So I introduce Laura Capriotti from the League of Professional Theatre Women International Committee.
Hello everyone. How are you doing?
Good.
Fine? I just left them 2 hours ago, so if I'm like, my voice is like, you understand why. The League of Professional Theatre Women, of course, is working towards give women more stage and really give them a bigger stage, because if you see in the world of theater, the women that are working as a director, there is a very small number, and so let's say in important position, that not that acting is not important, but positions that usually are considered male positions. So this is what we're trying to do. And with the International Committee, we really work on hugging all our female artists doing theater all over the world. We have a program of affiliates where someone from another country can be an affiliate of the committee, and when they come, we meet, we talk, we exchange ideas, we exchange projects, and we also, when we go to a country, we connect with them. So we're trying really to create a web around the world. But one of the projects I would say almost every year, we're all busy, but almost every year, we're trying to do a specific project. And this year, you all have your, okay, so I don't need to talk so much. But, so there is LPTW, call for participation. We are trying to create a performance based on oral history, I will say, or oral interviews with refugee women. And we are trying actually, is Peggy Chain, who is my co-chair, because we are both co-chair of the league, and other ladies in the committees. They're working actually in reaching out to refugees that are really in the camps in other nations, not specifically here in the US. And they're really working. I get the email, basically. They're working and I get the email. And I see from the email that they're really working hard on, because it's not easy, to also consider that there is a problem with language. Many of them, they don't speak English, so we need translators. It's not easy to put together this material, but what we are trying to achieve is to have a piece that is going to go on in June 20th, if I'm not wrong. But let's say June, hopefully. So my request for today really is read through this, and if you have any lead, any idea, or if you want to be involved and help, please contact me. You have the email or Peggy. Contact me for now, as you know me, as you saw me today, and even again translators, interpreters of other languages that are not Italian or English or not the most common ones. And also if you have, again, any idea of how to reach a woman who is a refugee and can tell us a story about, her life and why she is a refugee. So we would really like to get a good material to be able to perform it. We're starting from New York, but we are also thinking of expanding. And I'm talking too much, so I'll leave you with that. But really, you have the emails here. Please contact me and let me know if you have anything.
She just got here from Europe. Did you bring us any Prosecco back?
So thank you so much, and thank you, Jenny, thank you, Heidi, because they are doing a great job in always organizing this, and I collaborate with Heidi all the time, and it's really a privilege. Thank you.
We'll see more about it a little bit later on, but let's kick the symphony off with a poem inspired by Lucha Reyes. That's the first mangled language pronunciation that I'll do this evening, so treasure that one. And she is representing the nation of Afro-Peru, and it's Monica Carrillo. Monica Carrillo.
Inocente o culpable. Más que eso, destinada. La vida en cuentagotas le chorrea lo que ha sobrevivido a la historia. Se almacena en un vacín y parece escupitajos. No puedo evitar ser eterna doliente, tampoco usar el jabón hecho con la grasa de las vísceras de algún matalacher revoloteado en la olla. Luchar con la certeza que a pesar de las batallas no ganaré la guerra. Aceptar mi destierro, aceptando lo posible y olvidando lo suficiente. En mi sueño de niña había amigos con amor. Despierta, solo dientes me agredieron, uñas me cortaron la epidermis, lenguas relamieron de mi sangre, ojos laceraron mi sonrisa. Cobijo mis recuerdos en un gueto construido por mis brazos. La imagen de yo, niña, es lo único allanado, intangible, blando e irrigado que me ama. Es la profética y eterna doliente que es siempre abrazada por otra desterrada. Que romántica y triste escucha en sus latidos balbucear un tambor, balbucear un tambor, balbucear un tambor, balbucear un tambor, balbucear un tambor.
like me, of these original languages. Uche apparently was the Edith Piaf of Peru, so it's definitely worth checking out if you have the time. Next up, we have the great nation of Australia, and normally I wouldn't do an interpretation of somebody else's accent, but Helena Gurus, who's our artist from that country, loves doing my British accent all the time, so I'm going to take the piss out of her instead. Helena is going to pay tribute to an Australian author and life model called Rose Lindsay, who was the greater woman behind the great man. Helena Gurus.
Rose Lindsay, can you hear me? Yeah. Hi. Rose Lindsay was born Rosa Soda on July 5th, 1885 in Gosford, New South Wales, and was an artist model, business manager, mother, author and wife of one of Australia's greatest and most controversial artists of all time, of our time actually, Norman Lindsay. Already a working established artist model, she met Lindsay in 1902 at the ripe age of 16 and started modelling for him that same year, soon to be his lover and his partner in art, and later on in 1920 his wife. She was the proud mother of 2 girls by 1922, Janet and Helen Lindsay. Rose managed the affairs of Lindsay's career, all while pursuing her own creative interests, a true vintage Wonder Woman. When I visit family in Sydney, after being home for a few days, my first port of call is always the Norman Lindsay Gallery and Museum. Located in the Blue Mountains, about an hour's drive from Sydney, bronze statues of mythical beauty, some modelled after Rose, adorn the grounds, in essence worshipping the female form. The museum tours offered are primarily about Lindsay's work, although every tour guide puts aside time to talk about Rose. They talk about how Rose was a master printer and spent many hours on the etching press. They say she was astute and always practical. It was one of her brilliant ideas to make prints of Lindsay's etchings in limited edition batches of 500, driving the demand for the prints up to outweigh the supply, raising the cost of Lindsay's work, whose art continues to climb in value today. It was Rose who found the property in the Blue Mountains in 1910, signed the paperwork and sealed the deal. And when prolific artists and literary guests came to visit, it was Rose's vivacious personality that entertained them, while Lindsay quietly worked on in his atelier. Lindsay's work is heavily inspired by the Greek gods and his love for the lost city of Atlantis. And in 1913, a pen and ink drawing that Rose modelled for, called Crucified Venus, created quite a stir and scandal amongst the church and press, went on display at the Society of Artists exhibition in Melbourne and was removed from the exhibit. It was rehung within the week due to the Society director threatening to remove all the New South Wales paintings if it was not promptly returned. Now, the Lindsays were no strangers to overseas travels, especially to England and the US, and in 1940, Rose took 16 crates of paintings, etchings and drawings here to America to protect them from the war. But disaster struck when the train that the family were travelling on caught on fire, and the work was revealed to American officials who confiscated it and brutally burnt it as pornography. Lindsay's response? Don't worry, I'll do more. Rose was distraught by the unfortunate incident and returned back home to Australia. In her 70s, Rose began to write. She wrote 2 autobiographical books, Ma and Pa about her childhood memories, and A Model Wife about her life with Norman Lindsay. In 1978, Rose died, and the books were later republished in a single volume in 2001, Rose Lindsay, A Model Life. Thank you.
He was quite thrusting, wasn't he, old Mr. Lindsay? That was fabulous. Thank you, Australia. Next up, we have Austria in the person of Louisa Moore. I think that's how you say it. Louisa Moore. And she is representing the Nobel Prize-winning playwright and writer, Elfriede Jelinek. Yeah, her.
Hi. Hey. I'm going to be doing a quick reading on women as lovers. or as it's also called in German, die Liebhaberinnen. One day, Brigitte decided that she wanted to be only woman, all woman for a guy who was called Heinz. She believes that from now on her weaknesses would be strengths and her strengths very much hidden. Heinz, however, does not see anything endearing in Brigitte, and he finds her weaknesses only repellent. Now, Brigitte also takes care of her appearance for Heinz because if one is a woman, one can no longer turn back from this path, and one must take care of one's appearance. Brigitte hopes that the future will thank her one day by letting her look younger, but perhaps Brigitte doesn't have any future at all. The future depends entirely on Heinz. When one is young, one always looks young. When one is older, then it's too late anyway. Then, if one does not look younger, the judgment of the world is merciless. Did not make cosmetic provision when young. So, Brigitte has done something which will be important in future. If one has no present, then one must make provision for the future. Brigitte sews brassières. If one makes a short seam, one must make a lot of them. 40 at any rate is the absolute minimum piece rate target. If one makes a longer, more complicated seam, one has to make correspondingly fewer. That is very humane and just. Brigitte could get many workers, but she wants to get the one and only Heinz, who is going to be a businessman. The material is nylon lace lined with a thin amount of foam rubber. Her factory has many market shares which are abroad, and many seamstresses who come from abroad. Many seamstresses drop out because of marriage, childbirth, or death. Brigitte hopes that one day she will drop out because of marriage and childbirth. Brigitte hopes that Heinz will get her out of there. Anything else would be the death of her, even if she stays alive. For the time being, B has nothing but her name yet. In the course of the story, Brigitte will receive Heinz's name that is more important than money and property, that can procure money and property. Real life, which can give an opinion if it's asked, real life is the life after work. For Brigitte, life and work is like day and night. So in this story, there will be more about free time. In this special case, life is called Heinz. Real life is not only called Heinz, it is Heinz. Apart from Heinz, there's nothing. Anything that is better than Heinz is absolutely unattainable for Brigitte. Anything that is worse than Heinz, Brigitte does not want to have. Brigitte fights desperately, tooth and nail, against going down in the world that is the loss of Heinz. But Brigitte also knows that there's no going up in the world for her. There's only Heinz, or something worse than Heinz, or sewing brassières until the end of her life. Sewing brassières without Heinz means the end of her life right now. It is left completely to chance whether Brigitte lives with Heinz or escapes life and goes to waste. There are no rules for that. Fate decides Brigitte's fate. It's not what she does and is that counts. What counts is Heinz and what he does and is. Brigitte and Heinz have no story. Brigitte and Heinz only have work. Heinz must become Brigitte's story. He must make her a life of her own. Then he must make her a child whose future in turn will be molded by Heinz and his job. The story of B and H is not something that grows. It is something that is suddenly there, flash, and is called love. The love comes from Brigitte's side. She must convince Heinz that love also comes from his side. He must learn to see that for him, too, there can be no future without Brigitte. Naturally, there is indeed a future for Heinz. As an electrician, he can have that, even without Brigitte.
That's cool, Chair, isn't it? Thank you, Louisa. Next up, we have a symphony first. Really exciting. We have, for the first time, performing on stage together, a mother and daughter, because they are both artists, and we've had the daughter representing the nation of Bangladesh for a couple of occasions in our symphonies, often reading the poetry of her mother, but this year we're delighted to be able to actually welcome Shahanuka Hassan Shika on stage as well, representing Bangladesh with Rahi, and she will be reading in Bangla and Rahi will be reading in English. Here we go.
জাগো নারী জাগো, শেষ রাত থেকে অবিরত দরজায় করছে করাঘাত। জাগো নারী জাগো, আর ঘুমিও না মাগো, অপেক্ষায় নতুন প্রভাত তোমাদের দিতে সওগাত। মাতা ভগ্নী কন্যা সব, আজ বিশ্ব নারী দিবস। বিজয়ের নিশান নাও হাতে, ভয়ের কিছু নেই তাতে। আমরা বিশ্বের সব নারী বেগম রুকিয়ার উত্তরসূরি। আমরা আজ নেই দুর্বল, যা করেছি সবই সফল। মোদের তরে আজ সব সম্মান, তাই তো আজ হয়েছি মহিয়ান।
Since midnight, a constant knock striking on the door. Wake up, women, wake up. No more sleeps, mothers. A new dawn awaits you with new wishes. It's World Women's Day today. Fly the flagship of victory. Nothing to hide, nothing to feel shy. We are the vanguard of Begum Ruqya. Never you forget that. We are not weak. All our deeds are triumphant. It's time to move forward.
আমরা সবাই বিজয়ী। এসো নারী এসো, প্রাণ খুলে এবার হাসো। আমরা সবাই সাহসী নারী, মহাসিন্ধু দেব পারি। হবে নতুন বাসস্থান বেগম রুকিয়ার নারী স্থান। করব আমরা ধ্রুব সত্য সুলতানার স্বপ্ন। আমরা মমতার ভান্ডারী, আমরা সন্তানের জননী। আমাদের জঠরে পায় ঠাই শতভ্রূণের কাণ্ডারি। আমরা নারী, আমরা সবই পারি। আমরা প্রেমের হিমাদ্রি। আমরা নই শুধু নারী, আমাদের পরিচয় মানুষের নাম জারি। পিছু হাঁটতে চাই না যে আর, সম্মুখে রয়েছে সংঘাতের পারাবার। স্বাধীনতার পতাকা ডাকছে এবার, নেই যে কিছু হারাবার। আমরা মা, আমরা বোন, আমরা কন্যা, বুকে বইছে প্রত্যয়ের বন্যা। পর্বজয়ের মালাখানি, আমরা সবাই বিজয়িনী।
Come, my women, come. Let us laugh with all our might, all of us, our courageous tribe swimming fast against the highest tide. It's now time to alight into the land of female ties. Time to have Begum Ruqya and her ilk thrive watching Sultana's dreams realize. Empires of care, thriving within birthing and mothering generations unseen. Mountains of love, colossal and invincible, naming future worlds yet invisible. This isn't the time to look back inside. Our heavens of joy lie nigh. Needless to count losses anymore, let our flag unfurl and soar. Come, all you mothers, sisters, and girls, our joys are finally free, undeterred by wars, garlanded in victory. Thank you so much.
What a special treat to have the artist and the honoree, or the honored, anyway. Two people, mother and daughter, both artists, both here at the Salon Symphony. That was fantastic. Thank you, Sahanuka, and thank you, Rahi. Next up, we have Brazil, represented by Rafaela Raposa, and she is performing some of the work of Rita Lee, who is a Brazilian singer and activist and theatre person and all-round artist. And she's going to be performing the work in Brazilian, so in case you don't speak Portuguese, we will again offer the translation on our website. But Rafaela just wanted people to know that the song is about another Brazilian activist and artist who was the first woman in Brazil to be arrested for political crimes. And the song is about a woman called Pagu. Here is Rafaela Raposa.
Good evening, y'all. Mexo, remexo, a Inquisição. Só quem já morreu na fogueira sabe o que é ser carvão. Eu sou pau pra toda obra, Sou rainha do meu tanque, sou pago indignada no palanque. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Fama de porra louca, tudo bem. Minha mãe é Maria, ninguém. Não sou atriz, modelo, dançarina. Meu buraco é mais em cima, porque nem toda feiticeira é corcunda, nem toda brasileira é bunda. Meu peito não é de silicone, sou mais macho que muito homem. Nem toda feiticeira é corcunda, nem toda brasileira é bunda. Meu peito não é de silicone, sou mais macho que muito homem. E nem toda feiticeira é corcunda, nem toda brasileira é bunda. Meu bem, não é de silicone, sou mais macho que muito homem. Ratatá, ratatá, ih, ratatá, tararara, parará.
Have a perch. Thank you, Raffaella. That was fabulous, wasn't it? And you can find out more about that song and Rita Lee by looking on the website, eventually. Next, we have China with Shunjia Pan, who is a new assistant with the International Women Artists Salon and is also an artist in her own right. And she is going to be reading some of the poetry of one of the greatest poetesses of the Song dynasty from the 12th century. And I'm going to have to read this as well. And the post is called Li Qinchao. And she writes about the difficult times of war in Shandong province, which is on the east coast of China, which is where she was from. So shall I take this story?
Hi, today I'm going to be reading two poems by Li Qinchao. The first poem, Sheng Sheng Man, is considered an insurmountable classic. It was written during a time when Li Qinchao's homeland was invaded and she had to flee her homeland. Critics marveled at her use of repetitive sounds in the first three verses, achieving the effect of alliteration while still managing to express the poet's extreme grief. Here's the full poem. 声声慢，寻寻觅觅，冷冷清清，凄凄惨惨，戚戚。乍暖还寒时候，最难将息。三杯两盏淡酒，怎敌他晓来风急？雁过也，正伤心，却是旧时相识。满地黄花堆积，憔悴损，如今有谁堪摘？手着窗儿独自，怎生得黑？梧桐更兼细雨，到黄昏点点滴滴。这次第怎一个愁字了得 ？I'm gonna read the English translation. Note after note. I look for what I miss. I know not what it is. I feel so sad, so drear, so lonely, without cheer. How hard is it to keep me fit in this lingering cold, hardly warmed up by cup on cup of wine so dry? Oh, how could I endure at dusk the drift of a wind so swift? It breaks my heart, alas, to see the wild geese pass, for they are my acquaintances of old. The ground is covered with yellow flowers, faded and fallen in showers. Who will pick them up now? Sitting alone at the window, how could I but quicken the pace of darkness that won't thicken? On plain's broad leaves, a fine rain drizzles as twilight grizzles. Oh, what can I do with a grief beyond belief? So despite her dreary situation, Li Qingzhao also expressed her courage in this following poem, a 绝句 written in summer. In this poem, she honored Xiang Yu, a Chinese hero who chose not to run away from battle when he was given the chance, despite his apparent disadvantage. 夏日绝句，生当作人杰，死亦为鬼雄。至今思项羽，不肯过江东。A 绝句 written in summer. One ought to live as a hero in this world, and after death, a hero remain. The memory of Xiang Yu is cherished to this day because he chose to die, not to cross the river after his defeat. And that is my program. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Chunjo. Now we have the nation of Cuba, and we have Catherine Leiva, who will be representing the work of Cuban poet Dulce Maria Loinez. Here we have Catherine Leiva.
Dulce Maria Loinez, one of the most celebrated poets in Cuba, was the daughter of the famous general Enrique Loinez del Castillo, a hero of the Cuban Liberation Army during the war against Spain. She published her first poems in 1920 at a very young age. Her novel and subsequent books of poetry were published in Spain in the 1950s, where she achieved great success. Her talents and her family's social position brought her into personal contact with some of the major Spanish language authors of the century, including the Spanish author Federico García Lorca. After the victory of the Cuban Revolution in 1959, Loinez did not go into exile. She chose to remain in Cuba. But when she refused to join the Communist Party, her books were removed from public libraries, and she herself was ostracized. Loinez went from being a widely published poet in Spain to being a forgotten poet in Cuba. For the next 30 years, she lived in seclusion in her Havana home. She was 90 years old when Spain's Royal Spanish Academy gave her the Miguel de Cervantes Prize, which is the highest literary honor in the Spanish language. After this important recognition, Cuba published Loinez's novel, Garden, her complete poems, and her essays. She died 5 years later. I decided to introduce you to Dulce Maria Loinez's legacy, not only for the sobriety of her beautiful literary work or her exquisite handling and mastered use of Castilian language, but also for the special way in which she expressed femininity through her work, for her inspiring strength dressed in tenderness, and for the beauty of her spirit.
suppose it's a broken thing, broken the world. It's time for a dance break! Anyone want to join in? The first dance act we have is from Guyana, and Ingrid Griffith will be performing the work of a famous vaudevillian and calypsian who was known as Madame O'Lindy, and her real name was Elia Luisa Marquez. So here we have Ingrid Griffith.
I'm taking you way back and far away to British Guyana. It's now called Guyana, my homeland. I have some things to tell you about Madame O'Lindy. I have some things to tell you. Who is Madame O'Lindy? Some replied. She was a performer from a long gone era. She was a woman with inventions and a knack for bringing joy and a smile. She helped us let go of our woes and tension from our tired bones. Who is Madame O'Lindy? She was a mixed race woman. In Guyana, she was the type you call a red woman. No, she was more Portuguese. No, she was Amerindian. Guyana is a country of 6 races. She could be Amerindian, she could be Portuguese, but from that body, I could tell that she was of African ancestry. Who is Madame O'Lindy? She was a rumba dancer from the vaudeville era. For 12 cents, she would put on a nice show boy. She would have snakes round her waist, yes. She was daring, brazen, a temptress. And that woman can whine, oh boy. Who is Madame O'Lindy? I discovered her when she was age 17, says J.F. Henson. He was a man then in his 30s. He was a performer. I saw this young beauty with limbs that moved with fluidity. I was convinced she was star quality. They formed a group. They called themselves Trio Deluxe. Madame O'Lindy, J.V. Henson, and a male acrobat who called himself Lustel. Madame O'Lindy was part of a troupe that included male acrobats, contortionists, comics, starboy calypsonians, big bands. Vaudeville was new in Guyana. It took some time to come around. Working class men and pork knockers with their fresh payday money couldn't resist. But the old church ladies hissed. Trio Deluxe burst onto the Caribbean circuit. Trinidad, Grenada, Panama, Puerto Rico, Curacao. In Venezuela, the troupe was a huge success. Performances as La Guerra were so unforgettable that Madame O'Lindy changed the name of her group to Caracas Nights in memory of the town. She sang in both English and Spanish. Yes! One of her favorite songs was Alice Blue Gown. That's it. But it was her dancing. She danced the sentimental tunes as well as calypso. She would open her skirt like so and turn like so. Few people who saw her can forget her. Madame O'Lindy also brought the house down with quips and humor. She had pork knockers who hadn't laughed in months jumping out of their seats, while many a middle-class audience who had written off show business as lawlessness but found themselves hiding in balcony seats, they had to say, that was a damn good show. norms change every few years, but gender norms, so intertwined with power and prerogative, take generations. I'm honored to present this pioneer and iconoclast, my countrywoman, Madame Olindy, Alila Louisa Marks.
That was a dance break, but maybe I could do the moves. That was just a dance taste there, but now we do have some dance from India, and we're very excited to welcome Yaramani Kaluri, who is performing the work of her guru, Saurabha Naidu, who was the first woman to take the form Kuchipudi dance internationally, which is traditionally a male form of dance. It's a very old male form of dance, and Saurabha Naidu was the first person to internationally tour as a woman with that. So we're very excited that Yaramani Kaluri will be showing us that this evening. By her genuinely beautiful costume, so I took my old piece of wallpaper off and left it back there and suited to something more comfortable. Do you like my check mark? Don't know where that came from. That's checking women's equality and progress. And in this amber light, it's almost gold because we're in solidarity with the Time's Up and Me Too campaign in Hollywood. So we're trying to go for a bit of a black and gold thing. I mean, I know it's silver, but I can't. Next up, we have the nation of Ireland in the person of the fabulous Fiona Walsh and this microphone stand, who will totally upstage her. And she will be performing the work of Irish writer, I've got to make sure I say this properly for my Irish friends in the house, Nuala O'Fuelor.
I'm going to read a little bit, a little bit from Nuala's book, her autobiography called Are You Somebody? Sorry, The Accidental Memoir of a Dublin Woman. An accident got me the fare back to Ireland. Lives were ruined at that time, thousands and thousands of them, quite casually, by the rules the patriarchy made for young women. They were hotly pursued and half longed to yield, but were not able to defend themselves against pregnancy, and they were destroyed if they got pregnant. I got the fare back to Ireland through one of those tragic pregnancies. An Irish woman I knew, a successful, well-dressed executive assistant who normally wouldn't have mixed with me, thought she might be pregnant. She came to me and we went to a doctor. She took off her jumper and bra and he just peered at her and said, yes, she was pregnant. He said it coldly. She paid him. Outside it was a winter night. She held onto the wall, dry-eyed, trying to grasp the ruin that faced her. Almost the worst thing was, how would she tell her parents? In the end, I was given the fare to go back to Ireland to tell them, while she waited in London to hear how they took it. That was how I got back to Ireland. This young woman had barely begun her life when pregnancy struck her, but that is her story for her to tell. All I know is that she hid out in Belfast and that I was there with her for the last few days before the baby was born. We walked around all the time, aimlessly, because we had no money to go anywhere. I saw her for a few hours after the birth, weeping in her bed, her milk seeping through the bandages she was tightly bound with. Her father came up from Dublin, and he and I were the only people in a side chapel when a priest baptized the baby. Then I took the baby to the train for Dublin. In Dublin, I got a bus to a suburb. I handed the baby to a nun in a home to be kept until she was adopted. All that way, the baby never cried. I didn't know until many years later that the mother used to go out to that home and look through the hedge at the children's playtime in the hope of seeing a child who looked like herself. And I was still having unprotected sex myself. I didn't know how to get out of having sex. I never thought of the man as having a responsibility to me. Though now I don't forgive the older man, for instance, who took me on a holiday to Connemara, which I'd never seen before when I was 19. This man was Irish, but he had been travelling abroad. He was the first travelled man I ever knew, and I revered him for his knowledge. I felt I had to sleep with him to keep him interested in me, but I only knew how to court. I remember him bending over my naked body. I hated it being out in the open. In the bed, in the damp cottage we had to pretend to be married to get. I wore the twist of gold paper from a cigarette packet as a ring when I met the landlady. He was pulling at the hair under my arm as a sort of playful initiatory move. Relax, he ordered. Come on, he urged me. Be a bit more relaxed, can't you? But I was coldly embarrassed by him. We sat on the cliff tops in the windy sunshine, and he told me about his sex life. I was supposed to be induced into adult sensuality by his confidences. I sat in the glass porch of the little hotel near the cottage and read my way through back copies of the New Yorker, grimly putting in the time till I could get away from the holiday and from him. This man later wrote me a letter about what a man wants from a woman. I enter it here as a document from patriarchal times. Dear little sister, you can give him, by him, I mean the man you will want to give to, first of all, companionship. You can be his sieve for his ideas and his enthusiasms, the moderator of his superfluous anchors, the soft bosom of his hard days, his scourge to action, or his dangler of promised sweetmeats when he slackens. You will give him the freedom of loving you exclusively. You will tie him to this stern, sweet discipline. Let him feel the demands of your love, for he lives only as a shadow man if his heart can know no outpouring, his selfishness no merciless self-destruction. If his countless good impulses and scattered loves have no single gathering point and centre where they realize themselves and have meaning, you will give him this. You will give him the manly task of earning your love again daily. You will give him the delight of his eyes when he looks at you, bright and neat and clean, when he notices yet once again that your eyes heed him. You will give him all these things, no matter how strong or wise or world famous he may be. And when you make the gift of yourself, please let it be with humble awareness of all these things which you are giving. That's what will make your gift very rich and meaningful. You are right to prize highly interesting people, brain knowledge in the world of books, and to seek after them. But I have told you the things your man will want from you. Believe me. This ineffable letter, particularly the veiled threat at the end about a man, him, not wanting a woman, me, to go seeking after knowledge in books and so on, ranks in its small way with Mr. Collins' proposal in Pride and Prejudice as a piece of perfectly unqualified egotism. In those years, sex only made sense to me once. I was friendly with an American man who was doing postgraduate degree in Dublin. He was much older than the rest of us. He'd been in the CIA even, according to himself. He had the records of West Side Story and a paperback of J.D. Salinger's stories. He shared a basement apartment in Waterloo Road with a lot of other men. One afternoon when I went round there, he was the only person in. We flirted around on the bed in his room, not very seriously. And then the doorbell rang, and he went off down the passage to answer it. He came back in, and with his face all screwed up and feeling his way blindly and without a word, he pushed and pulled my clothes apart and forced himself into me. After a few awful minutes of red-hot pain, he collapsed onto my shocked body, sobbing dreadfully. He sat on the edge of the bed after a while and put his head in his hands. "That was a telegram," he said. "My mother is dead." Thank you.
Some more cheerful Irish storytelling. Thank you, Fiona, there. That was a wonderful and important piece of work. And we're delighted this year to welcome, I think for the first time, a representative from the combined nations within Israel. And we have a fantastic musician called Kat, who is performing the work of Mira Awad, who was a Eurovision Song Contest entrant, European in the audience. So here we have Kat performing some of her work for the nation of Israel.
This is called Square Root of Love, from Could Be Mine. I wrote the track that you'll hear, and I'll improvise on top of it.
our recorder next time. So I think that's our first flautist as well, so that was wonderful. That was Kat. Thank you so much for bringing the work of Mira Awad from Israel. And now we'd like to welcome back a face that you saw earlier, which is Laura Capriotti, who is representing Italy, where she has just come back from, Italia. Is that good? No, that was nice to write. I love the way Italians speak English. It's like they sing a song. She will be representing the work of the first woman in the world to have achieved a PhD. And that's the 16th century philosopher and writer, Elena Lucrezia Cornaro Piscopia. And Laura will say all of those words much nicer than I have.
Throughout the ages, women have been endowed by nature with excellent judgment and great courage. And they are born no less well-fitted than men to display wisdom and valor if properly trained and nurtured. And indeed, if men and women share the same bodily form, if they are composed of like substance, why should they be thought to differ in courage and intelligence? Women throughout history have attained success in military life, outstripping the achievements of many of their male comrades. The same may be said of the profession of letters and all other activities in which men engage. Women's achievements have been and are such that they have no cause to envy men. If, when a daughter was born to him, a father were to have her engage in the same pursuits as a son, the girl would not prove inferior to her brother in any lofty and glorious enterprise. But because girls are given a different kind of upbringing, their abilities are not rated highly. The gold that lies buried in the mines is still gold, even though it is buried from sight. And when it is mined and worked, it is as precious and exquisite as any other gold. These words were written in 1581 by Moderata Fonte, a Venetian writer. And maybe our Elena here read them. Most likely she read them. And she was from Venice as well. And she was very young, and as Jenny said, 304 years ago, she became the very first woman to get a degree from an university, the University of Padua. Ego study. At 17, she was an expert musician and a charming soprano. She played with delicate mastery the harpsichord, the clavichord, the harp, the violin. She also composed music. At this time, Carlo Rinaldini, celebrated professor at the University of Pisa and later at the Studium of Padua, met the young lady and wrote, "She is as beautiful as an angel and speaks Greek, Latin, French, English, and Spanish with perfect ease. She even learned Hebrew under the rabbi of the Venetian synagogue, as well as Arabic and Chaldaic." And, but she didn't have a desire for academic honors or degrees from the University of Padua, where she was. She simply wanted to be away from Venice and continue to learn as much as she could. Her father, on the contrary, wanted an opportunity for his now famous daughter to give public proof of her extensive and profound learning by defending a theological thesis and by submitting to the rigorous examination at the University of Padua for the Doctor of Theology degree. His request for this opportunity was most unusual. However, Lucrezia, in obedience to his wishes, prepared herself for such a doctorate, and in 1667 signed the usual petition for it, addressing it to the rector of the university. Everything went well, was proceeding. Suddenly, the preparation stopped. Serious difficulties had arisen because of the stand taken by the ecclesiastical authority, no university had ever conferred the Doctor of Theology on a woman, and the Studium of Padua was not going to disregard so venerable tradition. Gregorio Barbarigo, Bishop of Padua and Chancellor of Theological Faculty of the University. What? A female doctor and teacher of theology? Never! And almost 100 years later, Dr. Samuel Johnson of London, on hearing of a similar curious demand, said, "A woman preaching is like a dog walking on his hind legs. It is not done well, but you are surprised to find it done at all." And Cardinal Barbarigo again said, "Woman is made for motherhood, not for learning." However, because the father of Helena gave some money to the bishop, he said, "Okay." So the date was June 25, and then they asked for the Aula Magna, but then there were so many people arriving, attending this public event, that they had to do it in the Cathedral of Padua. And Elena arrived, the 32-year-old descended from her coach, accompanied by her father, her personal attendants, and the multitude of people pressed closer. It was only the previous day that Elena had been allowed to choose the subject of discourse, and she elected to discuss the works of Aristotle. Right? Random passages chosen by lot without regard to the difficulties involved were then assigned for her interpretation by the august and austere examiners. For over one unrelenting hour in front of an audience of some of the most learned men in Europe, Helena expounded in classic Latin, answering the rigorous and probing questions with a simple ease and dignity. Repeatedly, she was interrupted by applause, especially from the many students attending. Now, traditionally, a secret ballot was used to determine a candidate's success, and Helena urged that this be done. This heroine had borne herself so nobly and so well, the vice prior said, demonstrating not only her philosophical but also her polymathematical learning. The idea of exempting Helena from any ballot was greeted by unanimous approval, and the decision was later confirmed by Cardinal Barbarigo, the one who said that women cannot learn. She was then pronounced Magistra et Doctrix Philosophiae, Master and Doctors of Philosophy. And there was an unrestrained applause across the vast cathedral. Father Rotondin handed Professor Rinaldini the mozzetta, a teacher's ermine cape, which he gathered around Helena's shoulders. A heavy gold doctor's ring with University of Padua seal was then placed on her finger. Next, the customary symbolic volume of philosophy was presented. Rinaldini embraced her with the traditional words spoken in Latin, Pacis osculum cum benedictione magistrali, the kiss of peace with the master's blessing. This marked a defining moment in history. More than 2 centuries later, the scene was vibrantly portrayed in the great stained glass window of Thompson Memorial Library at Vassar College. Thank you.
All comes back to Vassar in the end. Thank you, Laura. Whilst we set up for our next fabulous act, which is the Salon Symphony. Oh my God, I'm going to get one over. Or I could just do the making whoopie thing on it. One's too big. I have to project things. So, if you look under your seats, you should have the campaign theme for this year's International Women's Day, which is Press for Progress. And this is the sign that we all have to try and make. And we've scattered them around the room, the various different ways that you can pledge to Press for Progress, because the World Economic Forum did a study in 2017 into gender parity, and they found that it's going to take 200 years until we've achieved gender parity in pay. So there is still a lot to do. So we all need to make an effort to press for progress. So at the end we'll all get together and we'll all wave our flags and we'll all commit to doing that. You can go onto the website, the International Women's Day, and you can do that there as well. It looks like we're being upstaged. So here we have our regular symphony favourite, Akata Takasaki, the famous jazz performer, and you are doing Mickey in I.
Yes.
Thank you.
I'm wearing red dress because I love this color. The color of justice, color of passion, and color of courage and love. I came to New York as a well-known international woman and over 50 years ago. And then I learned and I believed we can love each other over the region, over the color, over the sex. And as you know, New York City or everywhere, it's difficult to live sometimes, you know, troubles coming, but always there is love. If you believe in love, you can get over everything. So I'm singing because I'm believing my voice is light. My voice is love. And then others also love. We are not separate from others, but are one. 例えば誰かを愛して傷つくことがあってもそれは愛しい傷明日への道しるべすべてを受け入れた時に光は近づいてくる空に抱かれた時永遠はこの胸に刻まれる季節が風のように巡って私
that big beast shifted off the stage while we prepare for our next musical tribute act, which is from Korea. And again, we'd like to welcome back Lusai Toki, who are honouring the work of Hai Soon Kim, who is still alive, interested in the potential and suppression of the woman's body and challenges and ideas about that. So they just need to do a little bit of setup. So while they do that, who wants to make a pledge? Who's looked at their pledge cards? We will press for progress to achieve gender parity. I think that's one of them. I don't have mine. I had a whole set. Let me go and get this. Forge positive visibility of women. These are all things Symphony's doing. Shall I shut up? I'm going to shut up.
이 동네에선 유령된 지 10년 지나면 자동으로 제도권 유령이 된다. 나는 신참 유령들에게 수업을 한다. 이 일 때문에 도무지 잠적이란 불가능하다.
It's really impossible to disappear.
우선 머리에 책을 올리고 발을 땅에 대지 않고 걷는 연습. 말해봤자 아무도 듣지 않고 설 자리, 누울 자리 없고 눈밭에 제 발자국이 남지 않아도 놀라지 않도록 공중에 떠서 잠드는 법을 연습시킨다. 관 속에서의 우울증 극복법이라든지 지하 시체 보관실에서 더운 공기를 내뿜지 않는 법, 사막에게 잡혀가도 미라가 되지 않는 법이라든지 하는 것은 나도 모르지만 그냥 목청 터지는 대로 한다. 시간공장 제조 망원경이나 현미경 착용법, 유체 이탈법, 잊혀진 영혼이 되거나 메아리가 돌아오지 않아도 서러워하지 않는 법, 불우화, 질러버렸으면 하는 생각만 하는 법, 폭죽이 밤하늘에 떠있는 그 순간만큼 환하게 당신에게 창궐하는 법. 교과서를 참고하세요. 그렇지만 교과서는 짓지 않는다. 노래 속에 숨어 들어가 흐느끼는 법, 흐느낌 속에 숨어 들어가 숨을 참는 법, 흐르는 사람들과 함께 흐르다가 나무처럼 하늘로 흑흑 박차오르는 법, 금관에서 소리가 퍼져나가는 모습의 항법에 이어서 내 몸에 테두리를 지우고 형용사되는 법, 그리하여 나아나리 열과주는 법. 전에 내려오는 마술 속에 다 있어요. 그러면서 덧붙여 말한다. 안가품하는 유령은 하급,
Low rank,
눈비 내리는 밤에만 출몰하는 유령은 중급,
middle rank,
썩어서 파리를 피워올리는 유령은 상급,
high rank,
구름처럼 무름처럼 기체처럼 유령은 상상급,
high rank,
그리고 아무도 모르는 상상상급 등등 기타. 자, 그럼 파리떼가 죽은 몸뚱어리에서 왼쪽 날개 먼저 꺼내듯 춘설처럼 창궐하는 유령 연습 한번 해볼까요? 그러면서 숙제 안 해오는 유령들에게 일침을 가한다. 유령학교 졸업하고 제도권 유령밖에 될 게 없다니. 참. Thank you.
Totally probably back out now. Maybe we can sit on it. Oh. Yeah, still got it. Oh dear, that's the most exercise I've done in years. So we're gonna slip in somebody into the pro. It's not in the scheduled running order because we try and do it by alphabetical by nation, so that we're not showing any particular favour to anybody. But we're going to slip in somebody because she's got a very important rehearsal to get to, because we're all working artists, you know, so we're trying to juggle all these many things, yeah. So we have the fabulous Ziapora Dakile for South Africa, who is representing the work of the artist Lipohang Mashile, I think that's how you say it. Here is Ziapora anyway.
Hello. Or as we say in South Africa, Molweni Nonke Enilapa. This poem is called You and I, and it's by Lebogang Mashile. You and I, we are the keeper of dreams, We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I. No, life is not what it seems. We strip the fat from the lean and find the facts in between. The visions we redeem and the agony of choice. Yours is just a mind and mine is just a voice. But when we love with a heat that would rise like a song in flight on the flesh of our backs. If it's love that we lack, then we walk with the pain that we see. Love exchange that we spite as we walk through indecision, fading in fright. We ride the crest of intuition on the journey of this life. And by the hands of the infinite, we hear the cries, ee, 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 of the rest, weighed down by their intelligence, submitting to this test. But you and I, we push the boundaries of reason. You and I plot the mystery of seasons. You and I paint this history to free men. Nothing can be stopped like you and I. You and I. You and I, we are the keeper of dreams. We mold them into light beams and weave them into life's seams. You and I. Amandla Gawit, the power is ours.
Thank you, Zia. Have a good rehearsal. That was cool, wasn't it? So now back to the scheduled lineup. We have Norway, and once again we welcome back to the symphony Amelia Brown, who is representing the work of one of the first Norwegian realist novelists, who is Camilla Collett. Amelia.
All right, so Collett was also the first feminist ever in Norway, and I'm going to read a few paragraphs from one of her essays written in 1877. Time is short. It's shouting aloud for other qualities, other powers in women than alert, negating self-denial. Time is short. There's no use in hiding it anymore. Joy and comfort are lost to the people. From the depths, urgent, frightened voices are reverberating, and the noise of the world soon will no longer to be able to drown them out. They're calling for woman. Time is short. They need all the riches within her that have been dismissed as worthless. But she herself must learn to comprehend her importance. She must be aware that enslavement's time is up, and that she belongs to life and to the struggle with its responsibilities and dangers, but also with its rewards and victories. Is the time for her awakening at hand? Or must she continue her wandering through fogs and false hopes? But when it finally dawns, this awakening, this time of clarity, the reckoning will not be kind. When this cause is on everybody's lips, when it's openly proclaimed and discussed instead of being hidden away in a corner as it is now, when all forms of literature, short stories, novels, comedies, and dramas take up the cause and strive to bring it forth, a court case held before the bar for all the world to witness. Can you conceive of it? One member of the partnership, humanity, suing the other for age-old injustices and betrayals, Madam Eve Homo sapiens versus Sir Adam, for thousands of years of oppression and abuse of power. But sisters, womankind, for the right to testify, for the right to judge, certain documents must be examined, so I will point out some of these documents to you, these most deceitful sources of information.
There's life, which bustles around us. There's history, there's literature, and the fashionable novel. Yes, the novel. The time now has come to pass when women will seize the novel, not for idle dreaming, but for the enlightenment, for awakening, as testimony. Thank you.
Thank you, Amelia. Wonderful. And we have another veteran of the Salon Symphony scene, who is I think she's probably the fan club for the artist she's representing, who is a very good artist. We have Helen Macmillan for Scotland, who is once again performing the work of the wonderful Rona Munro. Helen Macmillan.
1727. A church in Dornoch in the Highlands of Scotland. A woman is chained to a wall. Her name is Janet Horn, and though she doesn't know it, she will soon be the last person in Scotland to be executed for the crime of witchcraft. With her is her captor, the lawman who came to the town to investigate the accusations of witchcraft and somehow found his way into Janet's bed. Janet does not protest or try to prove her innocence. Instead, this is what she says. What do you see when you look at me? You see me clear, do you, Captain Ross? You see me clear now. What do you see? A dribbling skull, withered dugs and reeking holes. Aye, you run from me. You'll not look on terror like this, will you? This is what the wombs that bear men come to, sucking dark and bony hips, death swallowing you whole even as it's pushing against you and grabbing your arse and crying your name. That's what you see now, eh? I've every kind of foul mouth and every kind of filth upon me, so tell me, Captain Ross, why would a man like you lie with the likes of me? Why would a young, golden, bonny lad like you put his face between these dropping tits and put his mouth all over this withered skin and push his way into my dry cavern and groan and moan and sweat his shining silver lust upon me, and when he's done, roll me over and beg me to let him do it again? How could that happen, Davy Ross, do you think? Did you think me beautiful then? No? Well then, do you think maybe I charmed you, Davy? Do you think you were a wee bit bewitched? It's one or the other, eh? Either I've the power to make you leap in my bed, or you wanted this hag, Davy. Wanted me so bad you pushed me over when I tried to bar the door against you. You were hard before I even touched you. Who did you want, Davy? The witch or the woman? Is it you that's a fancy to put his mouth where the devil's been? Confess the truth, Davy. Then we'll maybe both walk free. That was from The Last Witch by Rona Munro. Thank you.
And we are very close to the end of the performance part of Salon Symphony 2018. Well, of course, you can still press progress by reading key things. As well as the performance part, we also do have a visual art component to Salon Symphony, and this year we're delighted to have some space upstairs, and this evening is the vernissage, which is a French word, which means opening, so that's good, isn't it? So we encourage you to appreciate the artwork up there, which again is the same idea as the performance component, where artists are paying tribute to other artists that they admire. So upstairs we have the work of Sophie Mallory, Anna Kellerman, Anna Pavlova. She's upstairs, she's there. No. Ina Bonda and Sofia Roma. Sofia Roma is representing Ukraine, and I think there's also Ella Verez. I don't have all of my sheets here, but go and look at the art, it's wonderful. It's going to be there for the next week. Cecilia, I don't have Cecilia on here, sorry. But Cecilia's on there too, and she's breaking my heart. Okay, so yeah, check out the artwork. Do participate in the participatory map thing, and pin your own. It's time for me to shut up, and the next person doesn't really need any introduction. It's the one and only Christine Dixon, honouring the wonderful Harriet Tubman for the United States of America.
Thank you. about you. When they get off, it is such a bright time, 'cause my train is headed, y'all better clap, is headed for freedom, my train. My train is headed for sunshine, my train. My train is headed for sunshine, my train. My passengers had enough of sadness. They're going where they will find some gladness. My train is headed for freedom, my train. I am Harriet Tubman, and I was born in America in the year 1820, but I am of the Ashanti tribe of West Africa. In 1850, when Congress passed the Fugitive Slave Law Act, I now had to bring my fugitives to Canada. My mother and father were the last people that I ever brought to freedom. My parents were old now and their life was simple. But praise the Lord, they were free. I was laid to rest March 10th, 1913 at Fort Hill Cemetery in Auburn, New York. I was laid to rest at the tender age of 93 years old. Because when folks get born, it's always nighttime. When they get off, it is such a bright time. My train is headed for freedom. My train. Thank you.
Woo! Yeah!
And there we have it. That was our Salon Symphony 2018. That's what women's artistry is all about. It's pretty good, right? Progress for progress. We deserve equality. What more do we have to do to prove that, really? So let me bring all the other artists back onto stage. Let's have, who's still here that's not gone through rehearsal. Let's have Monica, Helena, Luisa, Rahi, Raffaella, Shunsi, Catherine, Ingrid, Yamini, Fiona, Kat, Lara, we would also like to say thank you to Dixon Place for hosting us. We'd like to say thank you to our token male, Rob, to our tech director, Amy, to our stage manager, Darby, to our assistant stage manager, Eleanor, to Ava, to Finton McBain, who did that amazing microphone shift earlier. She will do anything to get on stage. Give her a job. To Maggie Cousins for all of the fabulous graphic design. I've been Jenny Green. I don't think I introduced myself. Who I do have a lot of respect for. She's just quite boring. You know, you can't have it all. And I think that's it. Oh, Heidi Russell.
Hi, my name is Sophia Roma, and I'm a playwright, screenwriter, poetess, and director of the theater. So I work in a medium that's experimental, and I started off, I'm a La Mama experimental theater child, ever since the days of Ellen Stewart, who took me under her wings, and I come from New York University, Tisch School of the Arts, from the dramatic writing program, film and television, and so I have a elaborate experimental work dealing with social injustice and dealing with immigration, what it's like to be a dislocated soul in the universe and everywhere else. And my themes are pertinent. I think I've done at least 13 or 14 off and off Broadway productions, and I can say that most of them I have indeed partnered with the fabulous scenic designer Ina Bodner. So that's about me, and that's about my good friend. So I'm very happy to do this interview. It's mainly about the fact of my collaboration with a wonderful woman who I'm honoring for Salon Symphony and International Women's Day in particular, which was March 8th of 2018 here at Dixon Place, the fabulous Dixon Place, very theatrical place, very moving place. So I honored Ina Bodner, who is an artist and a scenic and set designer, award-winning for both. And we had the pleasure of working together for nearly a decade, and on my theatrical productions. So we worked together at many venues, including the Cherry Lane, and we worked together at the Jewish Center for Performing Arts. We worked together at the Millennium Theater in Brooklyn, on Brighton Beach, and we worked together at the Pushkin House, Oxford University, in the UK. And we've traveled to Moscow together to perform at the Mayakovsky Academic Art Theater. So in particular, Ina worked on my play called The Past is Still Ahead, about a Russian poetess who was exiled to Siberia for her many loves, her eccentric life, and for being a lesbian, among other things, and during the Stalinist regime. So Ina has always been my partner in crime in the theater, and she was extremely sensitive. She completely understood my ethereal work, the mysticism of my theater. And Ina is a remarkable compatriot and good friend. Unfortunately, she passed away in 2011 at the tender age of 43. Here to honor her ephemeral work, her outstanding work. 300 works in private collection in Ukraine, and 200 works on paper, oil on canvas as well. So I'm very honored to have worked with her. I'm very, very happy to be able to honor her in this way. Thank you.
Hi, I'm Cecilia Beck, and I'm representing Denmark at the Salon Symphony for the International Women Artists Salon. We were all of the artists were asked to do a tribute to a female artist from our home country, and I thought it was kind of difficult to choose just one, so I made 3 tributes, and I'm both a musician and a visual artist. So what I chose to do was to work on my series called Songs Without Sound, which is basically paintings of songs. So here's the first example. This is a tribute to Anisette Koppel from Savage Rose, and I wrote the lyrics from her song What Do You Do Now, and all of this you see here is like basically lyrics from the songs written on music sheets. Anisette Koppel made a big impression on me when I was a kid. My mom used to listen to her all the time. She's really great. The second one here is lyrics from a song called Det Ikke Det Du Siger by Anne Linnell, Lis Sørensen, and Sanne Salomonsen. And this was one of the first songs that I learned to play on piano. I really love all 3 songwriters, actually. They were very big in the 80s, but still play around. And the third one is a tribute to Natasha Saad, which was a Danish musician who tragically died in a car accident in Jamaica in 2007. And this is from her song called Ildebrand i byen. And she was a really great artist. I used to go every week and listen to her perform live, and also just dance to her music at a place called Stengade in København, in Copenhagen. She died just after she won a big contest in Jamaica as the first non-Jamaican person to ever win this reggae contest. I'm actually forgetting right now. I'm having a blank on the name of the contest, but she was also the first female jockey to ever win a horse race in Sudan. So she was really multi-artist, you could say. So those were my contributions for the Women's Symphony of the International Women's Artists Salon 2018. Thank you.
My name is Maria Petrovskaya. I come from Moscow, Russia, and I moved to New York in 2007 to pursue my dream of becoming a better artist and becoming just a very good artist, the best I can be. And that's what brought me here, and that's how I met Heidi Russell, the founder of the International Women Artists Salon, and this is my contribution to the salon. This is a painting of Anna Pavlova. She's a great Russian ballerina, one of the most famous ballet dancers in the world. She was born in the 9th century in a poor family, and she had very fragile health, but she had a very strong will and she loved ballet, so she made up her mind to become a great dancer. And eventually she became one of the most famous, most well-known ballet dancers in the world. She actually formed her own ballet group, and she traveled with her own group where she was the principal dancer around the world. She traveled to exotic countries like India and Australia and New Zealand and popularized ballet all over the world. That's it.